Hello Blockchain Nation, all of YouTube. Thank you so much for taking the time to subscribe to this channel, and if you haven't, please make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you can get weekly notifications whenever I release videos. I know this whole pandemic situation has been very challenging for a lot of people. I know people who have lost their jobs. I know people who are worried about losing their jobs. And I think it's an interesting time that we're all living in. So what I want to talk about today is the effect of, well, not the direct effect of this pandemic, but the long-term effect. And I think long-term effect is that companies are going to look at how they do business in a very different way. I think that most people will start to think about, which is already happening, remote work and how they can also build applications so that in case their business is no longer what's the word, accessible, like what's going on right now. So we're moving from brick and mortar to click and order, in my personal opinion. So I think there's so many industries that are affected. I also think there's so many industries that are going to benefit kind of from this. What I mean is that there are different roles that you can have, or different careers that you can be in that long term might be a safe place to be. One of those is the area of software engineering. Now I know there are people out there that are losing their jobs now. I have a friend who's a software engineer in Asia, and she talked about how there have been massive layoffs at her company. I'm sure that's the way how it's been all around the world. But at the same time, I think when we pass this phase, I really believe that the developers and software developers, software engineers, developers, same thing, are going to be in high demand because most people start looking at how they can build a team of developers and how they can move their business online. So I'm going to quickly look at this. This is Hired. Hired has a report that you can, I'll put a link below that you can take a look at. This is just, by the way, something I just want to talk about. It's not necessarily related to what's going on with COVID-19, but it's something to look at long term in terms of why it's a key that we get into this profession if you're not. So Hired is a company that does, well, they basically hire. Hired is a company that hires software developers and engineers, as well as other roles like product manager, project management, data analytics. And so they also help people to secure jobs. So if you're an employer and you want to hire the best staff, at the same time, if you are looking for a role, then you can check out Hired. So they have this report as the state of software engineers. You can download this report, but just to show you this, in 2019, average salaries of top engineers roles went up by nearly 13% in London, 7% in Toronto, 7% in New York, and 6% in San Francisco Bay Area. So just a few things to highlight in this job, the hottest jobs in software engineering. So if you look as in software engineering roles 2019, high demand for this year for AR, VR engineers, that's augmented reality and virtual reality, gaming engineers, computer vision. So if you compare this with 2008, you see there's a higher demand for blockchain engineers. Well, that's because 2017 the price went through the roof and everybody was trying to go into blockchain. Now, as the economy goes, that affects the price of Bitcoin, and ultimately that also affects people's interest in blockchain technology. It's just the way it is. So if you look at blockchain technology, blockchain engineering is all the way down here as of 2019. But there are other roles that you can consider if you are not specifically into blockchain and you want to look at other aspects. You can also look at this report and see what the demand is. This can help you making a decision of what industry you want to go to. I personally, this is a space that I love, and I think eventually things will change as the economy picks up. That's just my personal opinion. So Talent Insights, the year of augmented reality and virtual reality. 74% of software engineers predict we will see the full impact of this within the next 5 years. I think that's very true. Just on a quick side note, I've always said that there are different industries you can get into. You can get into machine learning, you can get into augmented reality, you can get into security, you can get into full stack development, but you just need to find what works for you and stick to it. So salary trends for top software engineers. This is cool. So as a search engineer, you can see in different areas. This is the San Francisco Bay Area. The average salary is 157K. This is New York, this is Toronto, and this is London. Just something for you to take a look at. If you look at data engineer, it ranges from 151 to 160K now. There's a 6% growth in salary, so which is not too bad. You can see neuro-linguistic programming and other roles as well. So let's look at the hottest coding languages. Most in-demand coding languages across the globe. Right now it's Go, based on the interview requests for candidates for hired. So hired, like I said, they help to get people to get roles. And based on interview requests from different companies, a lot of people are looking for Go engineers, Scala, Ruby, TypeScript. If you use Angular as a front-end framework, then you need to know TypeScript. You've got JavaScript, PHP, Java, HTML, Python. So yeah, so most demand coding languages across the globe. So if you're interested in learning Go, this is where Go is. JavaScript is all the way down here. And then you have Ruby, you have PHP interest. Check out my video where I talked about the most in-demand coding languages in 2020. That's a cool video to watch also. So by market. So most commonly used programming languages by software engineers. So this shows by market. You can hover over each city to see the details. So for Toronto, TypeScript seems to be number one. In New York, we still have Go. San Francisco, I'm guessing all the Scala and Go up there. Ruby is up there too, which is cool. In London, we have, what do we have in London? TypeScript. So I guess they use Angular a lot. Anyways, so most commonly used programming language by software engineers. JavaScript, 63%. A lot of people like using JavaScript. Python is up there. Java too. I don't know if HTML is programming language, but well, I guess loads of people love to learn it. So experience matters. So top programming languages by years of experience. So for people who have coded from 4 to 2 years, it seems like it's the Go is a new thing. And what do we have? We have PHP still here. That's cool. And we have C++ and C. But for people who have been programming for a long time, it seems like Go is still up here too. Yeah. So this is a good report. Most loved coding languages, we have Python, JavaScript, Java. Python seems to be number one. Most loved, least loved coding languages, Ruby. Why? Ruby and PHP. Anyways, factors that influence an engineer's language preference, the ecosystem, reasons not to love a language. It's not fun to program, 70%. So reasons to love is the ecosystem. Resources is up there. That's the reason to love a language, is the fact that there are a lot of resources available. If it's complex and overwhelming, the reason why people don't like it so much. So interesting. I mean, there's a lot in this. Yeah. So 34% of software engineers' primary motivation for contributing to open source software is that it's fun. And 82% of survey respondents cited new challenges and continuous learning as one of the top 3 things that attracted them to a career in software engineering. Software engineers want their coding skills to solve serious global problems. Just 21% said that. So the interview process. This is the last thing I'll just talk about, then you guys can take a look at this. So before developers land their dream jobs or even got an initial offer, we have to go through some interview process. Interview process ranges from coding challenge to take-home assignment to all sorts of stuff. So 66% of software engineers think that coding exams are relevant to the daily job of an engineer. Well, I don't know. Coding exams are just cool punishments. Coding exams, much part of the interview process is the most stressful. People say 42% is coding exams. I think I'll have to agree. And 38% says whiteboarding. What does whiteboarding and coding exams have to do with getting a job? Well, that's what a lot of recruiters require. I'm not sure the relationship between, those are good computer science concepts to learn, but I'm not sure how that translates to actually working on the job, doing stuff like React and stuff. Anyway, so talks about boot camps as well. 50% of people who code have a computer science degree, which is good in terms of looking at how other people, 22% are self-taught, 10% boot camp, and 90% have a relevant college degree. So this is definitely something to take a look at. Anyways, so basically what I'm trying to say here is, with all that's going on in the world, being a software developer, in my personal opinion, is still a very, very good career to go into. I'm sure a lot of people are impacted now, even as software developers, like I said before, but in the long term, I think it's still a good profession to go into. I think if you are doing something else, and I'm sure you're feeling the weight, a lot of people here, a lot of people watching who have white collar jobs, probably can work remote, but if you work a blue collar job, meaning like blue collar jobs, like maybe you do stuff like, stuff with your hands, it's hard to not be affected by what's going on. So I think now this is a very good time for you to consider changing careers or looking at transitioning into a career in software development, in my personal opinion. So that's what I have. So till next time, like I always say, my wish for you is that you learn how to code, because coding is changing and will change the world, and it's my personal opinion. that those who get involved early will greatly impact the future. And if that's true, then that's going to change the world.